Rick, I made you host if you want to start the meeting at your time.
Fantastic, thank you. I apologize for the screaming baby in the background. I learned last week that I have to have my earbuds out in order for everybody to hear the sound once we have things moving. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll begin the meeting. Can everybody see this?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. All right. There. How about now?
Go.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
Let me. Sorry, it's always fun to try and get the get everything figured out as far as your screens when you're trying to do a dozen different things. All right. So welcome to the Rotary Club of Carbondale. Today, our guest speaker is District Governor Lorraine Cavataio. That's not what I wanted to do. That's supposed to be on the other screen, but here we go. We're going to open our meeting. All right. Thank you, Shane, for being our greeter. I'm sorry. Thank you, Sharon Harris Johnson, for being our greeter today. I need to stop that sound. There we go. We're going to open our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance this week will be led by Faith Miller.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Faith. Our moment of reflection today will be led by Sarah, the president of the Carbondale Morning Club.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sarah Krenline, and as Rick has said, I am the president of Carbondale Breakfast. I want to thank the Noon Club for hosting this joint meeting together for our DG visit, and I think it's nice that we're including everybody from both clubs. I have two kids that are college age, and they're both home for, well, I would say the summer, but actually they've been home since March because of COVID. We have a rule in our house that we've had for quite some time where each of the kids is responsible once a week to plan, shop, cook, and clean a dinner. It's probably the best thing that I've ever done as a parent because, one, I don't have to cook 2 times a week, and two, they get to learn a lot of skills. But the other day, my son was asking me a question about a recipe, and it reminded me of a story that I had once been told about a mother who was teaching her 2 young children how to cook a pot roast. And the mother told the kids that the very first step is to cut the ends off of the pot roast. And the kids were pretty young, and they said, well, why in the world would we do that? That's kind of weird. And the mom said, you know, I don't really know. That's how my mom taught me to do it. And so the kids, when they went to go visit Grandma, said, Grandma, we're learning how to make your pot roast. Why are we supposed to cut the ends off? And Grandma said, well, geez, I don't know. That's how my mom taught me. Now, the kids were pretty lucky in that they had a long-lived family, so great-grandma was still around. So they go to visit great-grandma, and they say, we're learning how to make your pot roast because we love it. So good. But Mom told us the first step is to cut the ends off the pot roast, and she didn't know why, and Grandma didn't know why, and we wanted to ask you why. And great-grandmother just started laughing and laughing, and when she finally stopped laughing, she said, oh, dear, when your grandmother was young and I taught her how to make this pot roast, we were really poor. And I only had 1 pot, and it wasn't big enough to fit the roast. So I always chopped the ends off the roast to fit it in the pot. So 4 generations later, all of these people are still cutting the ends off the roast just because the pot wasn't big enough 40 or 50 years ago. The moral of that reflection is it's okay to ask why we do things a certain way. Often there is a specific reason and a needed reason, but sometimes that reason, its time has passed. So I do think that as Rotarians, as we go through our normal workflow, especially in times of COVID, we have to be able to change and think about why we are doing things a specific way, and not be afraid to ask, why are we doing it that way, and is it working? So that is my, that's my reflection for the day.
Thank you very much. That was insightful. People are always afraid to change, and sometimes the way we've always done things is maybe the reason for it doesn't quite apply anymore. So thank you. That's a great one. Moving right along into song time. Here's an old favorite. I promise it's only about a minute-long clip. So here we go.
West, the best, and the rest, I will do. Hey, that spells Rotary.
Right. We'll only do one verse of it just to keep it short for timing there. It was nice to find a Rotary song clip on YouTube that wasn't muffled. Our introduction of guests today was by immediate past President Shane Hermits. Most of our guests, I believe, today are from the Carbondale Breakfast Club. So thank you all for joining us today. Shane, do we have any other guests today?
No, we have no other guests today. We're always welcome to guests, but all of our guests are from our morning club. So thank you for joining us today. Let's have a great meeting.
Okay, some club announcements today. Our 100 Little Things project is still going strong. Cindy Buys is heading up the 100 cards for hospitalized kids. So if you're interested in making Goodwill cards for those kids, here's some different things that you can say. But reach out to Cindy Buys if you're interested in assisting with that project. We've got about a month or so before we need to have those ready to go. I don't see Cindy on, so we'll keep moving forward. Return to normal operations. When will we be meeting in person again? Sierra Allen sent out a survey to everybody, and we had about 25 responses to that survey. The biggest thing when we put together this plan for meeting in person again for the school district offices is that it looks like we're going to be doing boxed lunch instead of buffets. And we will still have our Zoom meetings in addition to in-person. So Shane and I were on a call last night with people from all over, I guess, the region. There were folks from Ohio and Louisiana. It was kind of a neat call to be on, but there's some different ways that we're going to be able to do that. And it's going to take some planning, but we'll have the Zoom option available in addition to our in-person meetings. So once we get that straightened out, we'll keep everybody posted. So thank you all for taking that survey. Gives us great insight into where the club stands on things. Our foundation challenge, part of our 100 Little Things. We are actually good through May now. We had the Flowers and Christine McGuire and Shane, and one more person picked up months. So we are actually scheduled through May now. Thank you all very much for that. And maybe, hey, we'll keep it going. So for those of you that are visiting, our club is doing a $100 match to the club foundation each month. So so far, every one of these members has matched. We've had matches since January of $100 each month into our club foundation. Our service projects in progress. Ella, would you like to touch on the project in Haiti?
Sure. I wish my video was working so you could see how excited I am that our mask arrived in Pignon. These are 2 pictures that they sent us. Thank you. And we received a very warm thank you letter from them for the mask. So we're on target with that. They also said they will accept our offer. They will gladly accept our offer and find someone to make the mask. But our offer included 3 steps. We need to get t-shirts. We need to get the t-shirts cut to a pattern, and then we need to ship those cutouts to them, and they will do the stitching and distribution. So anyway, I will get back with you later on how we get started on our various steps. Everybody has been saving t-shirts, and even if our guests have some t-shirts they would like to share with us, I can be considered the drop-off point for them until we know something different. So thank you everybody for everything we did in getting this 550 masks down to Pyongyang. Thank you.
Great job, Ella and Pam, for coordinating that. And thank you to all of our Rotarians for assisting with this. We are still doing the SIH Employee Food Drive, energizing our healthcare heroes. We're in week 6 now. We've been doing this, sending healthy snacks to SIH for their for the hospital workers. We've seen a lot of meals that end up getting in there, but they end up with the different shifts. So we've been sending in food for the 3rd shift overnight folks. Cindy Buys and Jill Gobert have been coordinating this project. Are either one of them on the call? I didn't see them. So we'll keep moving down the road here. Carbondale Warming Center Lunch Sponsorship Project. So now we are in week 12, which means we've gone at least 12 weeks without seeing each other in person. Many of our Rotarians have been continuing to pay their lunch dues, and we've been providing the lunches once a week to the Carbondale Warming Center. So today's lunch over at the Carbondale Warming Center is rotisserie chicken legs, green beans, and new potatoes, Southwestern ranch salad, and mixed fruit. So thank you, Rotarians, who have continued to do that. If you're interested in supporting that project even more, or any of our other COVID projects, please reach out to Jim Grant. I know there was a note that came out with our invoices this month, so please check in with him if you're interested in continuing to support our COVID-19 projects. Also at the Carbondale Warming Center, we've been doing material assistance. Gail White, would you like to touch on this project?
Sure. Again, a thank you to everyone who has been contributing or providing products or food donations or cash donations. Rick, I know you're working on getting some shelving to the warming center from someone that you are aware of. And I've not heard any recent requests. I think after you are able to provide the shelving, I'll touch base with Carmelita and see if that fulfills the quota that they need and what else we might shift our focus to.
Yeah, I spoke with the guy that's got those shelves. He's moving out of state, and he's using those shelves this weekend, but then next week we'll be able to pick those up. So trying to coordinate that effort to get about 20 shelves from him.
Okay.
So thank you for that, Gail. And,
yeah, thank you.
Additional club announcements. Faith Miller, would you like to touch on the Surfing into Summer project?
Okay, I was like, where's my microphone? Well, so far so good. Everything is going along well. I did take a few snaps and posted it on the Women for Change Facebook page, and they have been telling me that they've been receiving donations. They didn't say from whom, but I did see someone drop some donations off when I was there last week. And they have been serving up some pretty tasty sounding meals there. And they prepare a weekend bag with various items. And I think they said that the kids are more excited about the weekend bag than they were about the actual meals. Again, to reiterate that it is from 18 and younger. The parents are not served. Some were pretty upset about that, but that's what their grant is paying for. or providing. And, you know, so far so good. They make do when it was pouring down rain, move everything inside the church. And they do ask that when you're picking up the meals that it's only the adults. They want to leave the children at home or outside or in the car for that brief pickup, just to ensure everyone's safety. And they're still social distancing and wearing masks. So that project is going pretty well.
Awesome. Thank you, Faith. Dr. Linda Flowers, would you like to touch on the town hall meeting tomorrow?
Yes, we're having a Carbondale Town Hall meeting on tomorrow night from 5 to 7 to discuss policing in Carbondale. If you want to attend the Zoom meeting, you must register on the Carbondale Public Library website, but you can also tune in on the Carbondale City Channel 16, as well as the Carbondale Public Library Facebook Live page.
Thank you. Some additional announcements, our 100 Little Things project. I have the bag in the other room, but I know 100 pencils with the school supplies were donated in Murfreesboro this past week. It was really neat. They had a parade where families drove down the street, and they had McGruff the crime dog and many other mascots, Superman, etc. there. And at the end, each kid that was in the car got a goodie bag full of all kinds of things, including toothbrushes from SIU Dental. So, Faith, thank you for that. And our Rotary Club donated some pencils. Egyptian Electric had some colored pencils and some other things that went in there. There was also some census things. So I don't know if I saw Linda on. I don't know if Carl's on, but thank you to Carl for sitting out and getting some families counted in the census out there on Monday night as well. So these are our completed projects, 16. I think there's 17 now. Shane, do we have any more that are completed? Shane, you're muted.
Yep, I had to find the button to unmute myself. As of this morning, we have completed 20 projects. We have 27 projects now that have a leader or a champion. For our guests from the Breakfast Club and our governor, our centennial theme is we're doing 100 service projects in 1 year to celebrate our 100 years of Rotary in Carbondale. So if you think about it, we're 8 days into this Rotary year, and we've completed 20 projects, and we've got 27 other projects in the works. So we've got a lot of work to do, so let's keep the momentum going.
Awesome. Great job, everybody. Now it's time for your good news. Who's got some good news to share today? Breakfast Club, Noon Club, Lorraine, everybody's welcome to join us.
This is Sierra. I have some good news. So my son is now at the Carbondale Head Start summer program, so I get a little break. That's only for a month though. It started this past Monday, and it'll end at the last Friday of this month. But I get a little break, so yay me.
Right.
Any other good news? I guess I'll share mine. My in-laws were able, now that the state has gone green, my in-laws were able to come visit us this past weekend, which was really great. And they took our middle child with them when they left. So we are sans one child, and then my wife is going to go spend the weekend with them this weekend, and I'm going to go camping with some friends. So for the first time in a couple months, we're going to be outdoors and able to relax a little bit.
My good news is Apple Festival will be back in a very limited form in only 2 days, 17th and 18th of September. But there will be arts and crafts. There will be some small venues with music, the booths to help share things from nonprofits and civic groups, you know, lots of good things. Oh, the concessions will be there, so lots of good food. So hope you all come.
We're committed to making college more accessible by making it more affordable.
Well, this is Shane. I'll share a little bit. I guess this is good news. I've been out blackberry hunting out on our property, and I only have poison ivy on one arm. So I guess if there's any good news in that, I only have a little bit of poison ivy, not covered, not on my face yet. But it's worth the trouble of, if you really like blackberries, of going out picking them wild. Poison ivy is just a side effect. So the good news is I only have it on one arm.
Darn.
Pretty good. Any other good news? Final call before we move on. Okay, continuing on with the meeting here. Sergeant at Arms, Will is not with us today. Gail, do you have anything as the Sergeant at Arms today? Floor is yours.
Thank you. I do. In anticipation of us moving back to a hybrid, or moving to a hybrid meeting format where some of us will be person to person and others tuning in, I'm hopeful and anticipating that Will be able to resume attending the meetings and resume his responsibilities as Sergeant at Arms. And so what I'm going to do during the month of July, that we're continuing Zoom only meetings, I'm establishing a bank account for all of our club members. And if you do something good during the week, if you will let me know, either during the meeting or a text or email or phone call or chat or something, I will put your name down and you will receive a credit, sort of a get out of jail card that you can use when Will starts levying fines again when we're actually face-to-face meetings. So just from today, reports, I know Linda Flowers has been in the news lately with the town hall meeting coming up, Rick for shelving, Cindy for cards, Ginger for the foundation support, Ella for the mask project, and Pam also, and Jim, Jill for the SIH snacks, Faith for the Women for Change Surfing into Summer program, and then probably some of you have continued to pay your meal assessment in support of the warming center. And if you'll let me know if you've done anything during this week, I will add your name to the account and you will have a credit towards being absolved from a fine when Will gets around to doing those.
All right.
Otherwise, no fines against anyone today.
Thank you, Gail. All right, our guest speaker today is District Governor for 2021 in District 6510, Lorraine Cavataio. Do you need us to let you share your screen, Lorraine, or are you good to go?
I do not need to share my screen. You all can see my only thing that I have is the big banner for the year with our theme, which is Rotary Opens Opportunities, and it's a theme of 3 doors. I'm actually going to be blocking it while I'm talking, so I thought I'd show you that first. And as a brief introduction of myself for all of you, I enjoyed at the very beginning asking about the background of Rotary, and perhaps I've almost beat all of you as far as how long I've been involved in Rotary. And that is only because somewhere in the early 80s, when my father became a Rotarian, we were involved in all kinds of things with Rotary. And one of the stories as to how Rotary opened opportunities for me that I like to share to say how Rotary really can make a difference no matter what in your lives is I sit here today doing what I do based upon a Rotarian meeting back in probably about 85. My mother was also a Rotarian in the same club. She was the first female member of St. Clair County West back then. We're now part of Belle Claire. And she was also the first female president. Back in the day, they used to rotate the board meetings between houses, which is why I'm telling you I've been involved since sometime in the early 80s, because we stuffed envelopes, we did events, etc. We were always around as kids helping out. But this specific time would have been in 1986. And it was after a board meeting, kind of early spring or late winter, somewhere in that time frame. And I got that call from my mom. Could you come downstairs after the meeting? And as I went downstairs, there was John Biggs, who's a former judge also here in St. Clair County, but at the time was a lawyer. And he, of course, negotiated the whole thing, but he asked me about being a lawyer. And I said, yes, I want to be a lawyer. He said, what's your favorite class? And I said, math. And he said, then get yourself an accounting degree. And I said, sir, I want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be an accountant. And he said to me, but they never teach you as a lawyer how to run your business and manage your practice. So do yourself a favor and get an accounting degree. And that way you'll know how to run your practice. And also, if you ever decide you don't want to go on to law school, you have something else to fall back on. So I took an accounting class that summer at what then was BAC, is now known as SWIC. And I loved accounting. So my undergraduate degree was accounting and business administration. And I then I took a year off and worked, and then I went to law school. And now I am what would be considered a transactional or business attorney. And within that realm, I do anything to do with a business or corporation and estate planning and corporate and estate administration. So I sit here today in the type of work that I'm in based upon that conversation with that Rotarian in 1986. Who knows if this would be what I would be doing today if it hadn't been for that conversation and him opening that opportunity to accounting, which I never dreamed of, quite frankly, till he said it. Now, my parents might have thought it, but we know how teenagers are. We're not going to listen to what mom and dad say, but this other person, hey, that makes great sense. Also with that, I would be remiss, because some of you may know him, in 1991, 1992, my father, Jim Cavataio, was the district governor. We are the first father-daughter legacy in District 6510, and he is who swore me in. So if you were wondering who Jim might be, because someone asked me at one of my first visits, where's Jim? Isn't he your husband? I said, no, that's actually my father. So that would be my background. And I am married to Randy, who is a former Rotarian, and I have two daughters, Ellen and Kate. They are 16, almost 17, and 14. Otherwise, before I go on, I want to say thank you to Shane, to Sarah, and to Richard for arranging everything today and agreeing to all of this. It's very important that I want to see some change and collaboration among clubs and working together. And I also want to say thank you to Sarah for your wonderful moment earlier, because your story feeds perfectly into my message today, which is things that we've done just because that's how we always did it. Maybe it's time to look at those old traditions and see if there's some things that we need to update and change and not do just because. But I loved your story. And my other good news, Shane, is I'm glad I'm not there in person, because I'm highly allergic to poison ivy. So I'd have it everywhere if I so much was in the room with you. So my good news is I'm not in the same room as Shane, because I don't like poison ivy. Your credit idea is awesome, by the way, also for the Sergeant at Arms. And someone earlier was introduced who's going to the event in St. Louis for the women's event. I was there. I may not have met you or talked to you at that event because I had just had foot surgery. So I remember being there. I was the woman hobbling, but some of it I don't really remember because I had surgery a couple days before that. So I apologize if I met you and I wasn't real friendly. So with that, back to our theme for Rotary Opens Opportunities. Our president this year is one person called Holger Knack, is how you say his last name, Knack. He is from Germany, and he is the first Rotary International president from Germany. He had 4 messages he'd like me to deliver before I give you my kind of message. And with that, as they're phrased, not all of them may directly impact your clubs, but I want you to think about what you could do towards that even in your club. So for example, the first one is create new innovative club models, like having a satellite or a community-based Rotaract. Now, the community-based Rotaract you might be able to do with Carbondale down in your area, SIU Carbondale. But even if you're not looking at starting a new club, what are the ways you can change yours? And I think you already mentioned one way you're going to change it. You're going to still offer Zoom. at least for the Carbondale Noon. I think that is fantastic to continue to offer that as an option. So what other ways could you be innovative about your club to continue to grow and to service all the Rotarians in your area? Second goal that he had was each club to host, so Rick, this would be your job, and Sarah, your job for breakfast, to have one strategic meeting this year. And that meeting should talk about, where do you see your club in 5 years? How are you going to get there? And the next thing is, what value do you bring to your members? The third goal is select new members carefully. Make sure they meet not only your expectations, but also that you meet their expectations. Because if you do that and you meet each other's expectations, they'll be a very good member for your club and not one of these where they just come in and go out. And it sounds like you all have done very well with that, because a lot of people that introduce themselves have been Rotarians for a very long time, which tells me you met their expectations and they met your expectations because they're enjoying still being a Rotarian. So keep up the good work in that regard. The next thing is end polio. That's his last one. And for those of you that don't know, I know a few of you do know this, but the Gates Foundation has agreed to continue the match through 2023. In order to maximize the match, which the Gates Foundation has agreed to assist Rotary in ending polio, that calculates out to approximately $1,500 per club in the entire world. So to the extent you can do something towards that 1,500, if you can get to 1,500, 2,000, fabulous. If your club's goal is only 100, whatever it is, if you can continue to give towards ending polio, would be fantastic. Now, the Rotary Vision speaks to our time, ironically. I did all my training in January, prior to COVID, prior to all these current protests, etc. But ironically, the theme, opening opportunities, goes right along with the whole COVID and everything else that's going on, because we have been facing extreme change. In fact, in the beginning in March, I would tell you in early March or even in late February, if someone had told me, and I apologize, I have to use myself as an example because I've lived that, but if someone had told me that my law firm, which is almost 300 employees total, we would have all ended up going virtually pretty well overnight, I would have probably laughed and said, yeah, like that'll work. And amazingly, when forced to that point, we were able to do it rather quickly and all work together to get things accomplished. And in that time frame, and I know it's true of everybody that's involved with COVID, but everything was changing every day. So in essence, we started working virtually from home. So I think I got everything working a certain way, and then the next thing I know, they changed some process, or now the courthouse can't hear this, or we can't do that because of COVID, so we have to change again. And I think we all went through this constant cycle of not knowing when things were going to stabilize and be the same. In that process, though, what that speaks to is that's how we open opportunities. Who knew it was going to be an opportunity that I could be working from home? And as one of my colleagues said yesterday, which is so true, who knew we could be as productive at home, or maybe even more productive at times at home, and be able to spend so much more time with our families and our children? Who knew? And it's been being able to step back now and look at that. That was an opportunity. I've spent a substantial amount of time at home with my children and my husband. I never would have had that opportunity previously, and perhaps they wouldn't even be here either. They'd probably be off seeing friends and running, who knows. So it was a great opportunity, and we want to continue through this process to open opportunities. Rotary's vision is we see a world where people unite. In order to unite, that means that we have to take in everybody's differences, and we have to take all of that together and work together towards a common goal, which also goes with everything we're seeing right now with protests and other things right now, is that basically we have to take every person and look at all the blessings and talents and things that they can provide, and every single person is important in any process. And we want to, and I want to thank all of you on the phone and all of those that couldn't be here today, not only for all of your past Rotary involvement, but all your involvement today, in the future, everything that you can do for Rotary. And even if it is that you can only give 1 hour a week to Rotary and that's it, thank you. We all have other commitments. We all have other things that we have to deal with. And I just appreciate any time that you're able to give to Rotary. And I hope that all Rotarians thank you for your time and never make you feel guilty for the fact that you may not have the same amount of time as someone else does. But I sincerely thank all of you for your time. I also look at all of our Rotary clubs in our district as an analogy to cars. And one of the other clubs, Mount Vernon, actually corrected me, and I have to include trucks in that analysis, like big semis. But some of us are the old reliable clubs, maybe even an antique vehicle, and those are definitely worth a lot of money, and those are definitely worthwhile to still have around. We have those that are really fast and speedy and just want to get there in those fast cars as fast as they can. We have the pickup truck that will get all the supplies there, and we have the vans and the sedans that will deliver all of our volunteers. And then if you're Mount Vernon, the semi truck with all the food for all the people that they're feeding during the COVID situation, which it sounds like you're doing similarly in your area. My point is, though, we need all of those types of vehicles at all different times. There are times I don't own a truck, but we'll have to borrow somebody's truck to get us where we need to go. And if I can get all the clubs to work together and take all those different ways that you transport yourselves, and we can all get to the end, then we all did a great service. And it doesn't matter if you're there first or last. The point is to help each other to get there. And my goal for this year is really for District 6510 to make some changes within their organizations, in their clubs and how they run meetings, etc., so that we can grow and continue to embrace Rotary and the changes in the world around us. So I want you to work together with, for example, the two clubs here today, working together, acknowledging each other's differences, but what could you guys do together for Carbondale? And maybe you already do some projects together, but there could be some other things that if you pair up together, think of what you could do to double the impact. I heard earlier, and I understand that's related to the 100 years, but just as an example, if Carbondale Noon is going to raise $100 for an event, and they could pair up with Carbondale Breakfast, they could perhaps double that to $200 for some event, or do something twice as much. I understand 100 is a key for the 100 year, but just as an example. And so if you do that, you will be able to open up other opportunities, not only for other Rotarians, but for yourself, for your community, for the district, and for the world. So it could be a project that you work together to help the needy and get them coats, feed the medical workers, or contributing towards ending polio or going on an immunization day for polio. But we can do all of those things together. In that, I want you to look at and work on changing your club and innovative changes to your club style. Quite frankly, Rick had I loved all of your slides and all the different items that you had on there on your agenda. It was very good. And in comparison to some clubs, I really thought that was an awesome feature. But are there other things that you can add to and further develop with your club? Or maybe it's just having the Zoom meetings and adding that along. But I would like you to focus on looking at that and involving the youth somehow in a project, in a meeting, in a social event, something of that nature. And don't just ask them to attend, actually invite them in and have them participate in organizing whatever that event is, be it a service project, a social event, whatever it is. Also, looking at doing Zoom ongoing at your meetings, seems like you all are pretty technologically advanced in your club. But if not, ask one of the youth in your area. You should have plenty with the college down there, and see if maybe they can help you with some other grand ideas of how to make this even a better virtual world to go forward to do both. They may be able to make a change that's fantastic. It was Paul Harris who said, if Rotary is to realize its proper destiny, it must be evolutionary at times and revolutionary on occasions. Holger Kanak, our current president, said, to be prepared for the future, Rotary must continue to be revolutionary. Change and making change is evolutionary. But when you can make the change to enhance and grow as a person, as a Rotarian, a club, a district, and open opportunities, that's revolutionary. I want your club to be revolutionary. I want you to lead the way in the Carbondale area. I want you to be the one club in the area everybody wants to join, and maybe you already are, but if you are, then I want you to keep that status and grow on that status and be that club everyone wants to be a part of. The change that we're facing right now is adaptability. The world, actually, information and knowledge doubles in less than a year. So how can we very quickly adjust to all of these changes and make Rotary come out on the other side and continue to grow and be even better? That's a challenge, to accept it and move on and not just stand still and let it pass you by and try to catch up. So we have to try to embrace all these opportunities, all these changes, all of our different types of vehicles, and see if we can't all reach a common goal of making your Rotary Club the best it possibly can be, or even better than it already is, and open those opportunities for everyone in your community to be a part of it. And embrace adding youth to it and see if we can't bring them along to be part of this whole process. So in the end, let's be revolutionary and make a change to open these opportunities. And as I say that, I want you all to understand and know that in my several years getting ready for this position, I've had several Rotary International presidents or president-elects or past presidents say to me a couple of things. Rotary's done at the club level. Have fun at the club level. And don't forget, there's no Rotary police. We know we have to change in Rotary, but we can't do it from the top down because we're too big of a machine to move that fast from the top down. We need to start from the bottom up. So I'm asking you to help to start to make those changes and come up with all these adaptive, innovative ways that we will truly be revolutionary in District 6510 and in Rotary throughout the world. Otherwise, my few other quick announcements for you, and I can take some questions, is your pins, which look like this for this year. I have actually, because we're in this virtual world that we're in with COVID, these were all mailed to your presidents. They have them, they can deliver to you next time they see you in person, but you do have a club pin that normally the district governor would deliver to you. So I've delivered that through Rick and Sarah. Next, I actually would normally do this at the club, but also this was already shipped also to Rick and to Sarah for each of your clubs. But here is my delivery of your flag for your meeting when you get back. So you have your actual flag for the Rotary Opens opportunities. And the last thing is to tell you that district conference right now, so that you know with all these changes that we're undergoing, we're moving it to the spring. It will not be in November given the COVID situation and the fact that we're not sure we could host everybody. So we moved it to spring. We don't have anything definitive yet. I don't even have a date yet because we're kind of waiting to see how things pan out here kind of in the early fall. But it might be just a party, might be virtual. It may be something like we've never seen before. I really don't know yet because everything is constantly changing right now. I do know, and I can tell you that we will not have necessarily have a Rotary International President's representative at the district conference because Rotary International has indicated that there will be no Rotary travel paid for by Rotary International for anyone for those events throughout the entire year for 2020, 2021. So that does change a little bit as to the district conference. There is a chance we could still get a rep that would pay for it on their own, but we'll see what happens. But I just want to let you know, that's why I'm not touting the district conferences. Right now, it's still up in the air with all of COVID. But otherwise, that's all that I have for you. but would ask if you have any other questions, comments, or maybe perhaps a thought. I've heard some stuff about education in your area. I don't know if you can help kids with laptops to go to school virtually if it comes back to that. Just thoughts I'm throwing out. But any questions, comments, concerns for me? Somebody's got to have a tough question to throw at the district governor. You guys are too nice.
So I muted everyone while Lorraine was speaking, so if you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and speak up.
I can tell all of you, I do also, if you've seen, I don't know if any of you know Kathy Pine or Courtney Cox. Those are my colleagues from my law firm that are in the Carbondale area. I have been down several times to that office as well. So if you know them, they're very good people as well.
If you know them, Lorraine, that means that's a great opportunity for you to plug Rotary for them. We have 3 wonderful clubs in the Carbondale area.
I know you do.
Rick,
One of them actually lives in Benton. Scott, yes. Well, it says Scott on here, but I think you said your name was something other than Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mislabeled. This is Gail White. Your association with Kathy Pine, by the way, speaks very well for you. She's a great person, friend, neighbor, and colleague on another not-for-profit board that we both serve on. I was curious what kind of movement might there be for new local clubs in our district? Are you seeing movement of interest in establishing new clubs?
Here, this is my philosophy on new clubs. We do have a membership, which Mary Harvey is in charge of the membership, and we do have a club extension who is Jill Petrosinski. And they are always looking for opportunities to open other clubs. And there's so much movement right now as far as a virtual club or, truly just a virtual club. And as there's some other things that we can change as a result of everything that's happening. So yes, open to that. But I will also tell you, I'm as supportive of having been an AG and having 2 different, well, I guess you'd have to say 4 clubs, but I had 2 sets of clubs merge during my years as AGs. And in both situations, I can tell you that was also a very good move. So my thought on club expansion is, if it's right, I'm all for it. But if we need to actually just take and make things stronger where we have them, I'm also for that. So it's whatever's right for the area, but we are looking at those opportunities. And if you have any suggestions, certainly you can let me know and I'll pass it on to Mary Harvey or to Jill. Good question, Gail.
Thank you.
Lorraine?
Yes.
This is Ella Lacey.
And Ella, I know I've met you because you look awfully familiar in your picture.
I look even more familiar in person, probably.
Okay.
In hearing you say that the president's, the international president's rep may not be will not be available for attending district conferences this year, I wonder if you see, along the theme of opening opportunities and for what you said about doing things differently, is there any possibility that can be, regardless of whether we have an in-person conference or an internet one? Do you think a person could be booked to come in? It seems like it might open more potential for who they would let be a rep. We could bring them from anywhere.
Well, quite frankly, Ella, I already have one in mind if I have to go to that I can get, because they can drive here in a matter of a couple hours and is a good friend of mine and is a former Rotary International director. So yes.
That would be great, but I was just wondering, since we're encouraging the idea that we may have to use the virtual format a lot. If you brought a person in of substantial whatever in that format, maybe some people who are shy about using the virtual format would see it as more potential.
And you have an excellent point, and all of that is on the table. I can tell you, first time ever in the history, as I understand it, of Rotary, my class of district governor-elects for zone 30 and 31, which are the zones that we pair up with, and then that rolls up to Rotary International. they actually did a first time ever virtual swearing in of all of us a couple days before the first of the month in July. And with that virtual, what you're talking about, we had Ravi Ravindan, a past president. We had John Germ, past president, speak. We had Holger and Mark Maloney speak. And I can't remember, there was one or two others, I think, that spoke. And that opportunity, because it was virtual, several of them were pre-recorded, a few were live. But it gave the opportunity for that message to be delivered by the actual person, if you will, rather than me relaying those things to someone else. So it is definitely a good point. And things like that are evolving right now at the zone level and perhaps even so at the district level. So we'll see by the time April rolls around, we could have all kinds of different ideas by then, or maybe even just clips of things that we can present. Who knows?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Anyone else? I will say, Ella, the part of what I'm looking forward to is an opportunity as far as district conference with the Rotary Opens Opportunities. The original plan for the district changeover for us was, prior to COVID, was that because of the doors, I, in essence, was going to invite the entire district to my home for the changeover, whether you came or not, but you were all going to be invited to attend. And in essence, I would open my door to all of you to start my year. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and we ended up virtually. So I look forward to that opportunity to see everybody face to face and have these communications face to face, except for Shane if he still has poison ivy. Sorry, Shane.
Great.
That's okay. I have a question for you. Can you speak to youth exchange program? When do you think we'll be able to do exchange students again?
The hope is they keep just kind of rolling that as they can, Shane. It's an excellent question. Ironically, they may now be home, but we still, as of a few weeks ago, had some individuals that were still in countries that couldn't leave because of COVID. And Rotary International had made the decision that we're not doing the exchange students here in the fall, and that's off the table. But I think we will continue to reassess, and if there's a way to adjust that program and, you know, spin it up at some point, they might do that. The issue I think everyone is concerned about, including each one of us here today, is will we have a resurgence come the fall? And if we have a resurgence come the fall, well then, no, there's not going to be youth exchange until probably the following year in that regard. With that said, though, I would say, Shane, that means perhaps we can take this year, since we don't have youth exchange, and focus more on getting our current youth here locally involved in whatever we can in Rotary. So whether that's, we did not do RILA this summer because of COVID, but RILA next year, or can we start or strengthen Interact or do community-based Rotaracts, and how do we get them more involved, or perhaps just have some Rotaracts join your club? It could be a lot of different ways, but I don't have a good answer for you, Shane, because I don't think there's an answer yet given the COVID situation.
Nope, I agree. I like all those ideas. Thanks for sharing them with us.
You're welcome. Yes, Jerry.
I have just one comment. Could you say hi to your parents for me? Because
yes.
Back in 1995, 96, through the group exchange program, they hosted the exchange group from India.
Oh, yes.
Some in their home and other people's homes, and I was coordinating it for the district at the time, but I got to know your father and your mother at that time. So just say hi.
I certainly will. And by the way, I was in law school at that time, so I was living at home. So I remember that group study exchange as well. So I'm happy to pass that along. All those many opportunities, though, that Rotary still provides. Anyone else? I'm trying to look around my screen. I don't see any hands.
Looks like Gregory.
Greg has a question.
Well, the just a comment about the COVID canceling everything out. Last word that I heard yesterday or so, there was a couple promising vaccines that are starting to test. I know there's a number of them out there, but two from this report they were kind of excited about, and they're going to start people with COVID and people without. So soon as multiple vaccines or medicines are approved, that could change the dynamics of people visiting and coming back into the country. I know SIU has a lot of students that have to work on that, and so with the exchange, I'm assuming the same procedure will happen. As soon as a vaccine is approved, or vaccines, we should start seeing face and being able to safely meet face to face. So that's the hope, that months instead of years for a cure, and let's hope that works out. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Wonderful comments. And you're right, so much of this hinges upon whether or not they can get a vaccine for the COVID, because I can say there are so many out there. As I was just talking to someone the other day, they've been tested 4 or 5 times because of their position, that there is a potential exposure for them. But think about all those tests, and some of them, I never even really thought about that. Some of those are repeats. So today they were cleared for having COVID. Tomorrow they're exposed. It doesn't mean they don't have to do another test. But if we get to the point where we have a vaccine, then we can move that direction as well. But I also had someone I know, came back from Europe right as they started to, shut everything down in March, and ended up in the hospital, not with COVID, but with a whole different European flu type illness. So it just means we have to be cautious no matter where we're going. Any other comments, questions? You had wonderful attendance today. Rick, Sarah, and Shane, you've got great attendance today.
Well, it was fun having the group meeting all together. I thought that was real great.
Thank you. I said part of that idea, by the way, Sarah, I didn't tell your group this, but part of the idea behind that is when my husband became a Rotarian, he was in a different club, and I told you I've been involved in Rotary and around the same club since in the late 70s, early 80s. And we decided to host his club for an event like we used to do for mine. And it was a total change of pace, because usually it was, I knew everybody coming in the door and they're meeting my husband. Instead, everybody knew my husband and I didn't know any of them. But the coolest thing was I had a connection with all of them because they were Rotarians. And so we made a bond just like that. And it was just an awesome feeling to have all these people walk in that I didn't know, but had an instant connection with. And it just, things rolled, and communication and conversations. It was a wonderful experience. So I hope to encourage that by doing these types of formats among some of the other clubs as well.
Well, thank you, Lorraine, for a wonderful speech and for discussion. It's exciting to hear what's happening in the district, especially with clubs and getting people together. So I'm going to share my screen again here. While I do, I want to once again thank Sarah and the Breakfast Club for joining us today. It was really neat to get everybody together. What's happening next week? Next week, we have Ms. Nancy Maxwell from Carbondale United, who will be joining the Noon Club to speak. So please keep in mind, noon once again here via Zoom. And after that meeting, we may evaluate where we stand and have that plan together with the school district. So I'm hoping that by our club assembly at the end of the month, we will be once again able to get together. So Service Above Self and Polio Now, as we all know, the Polio Foundation, working to eradicate that. That's one of Holger's big ones, big 4 for the year. And I'm going to call on Sarah Heyer from the Breakfast Club to lead us in the 4-way test. You still with us there, Sarah?
The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
is the truth.
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Fair to all concerned.
Third,
Will it build
Will
a better friendship?
and fourth,
Will
Will
it
be
be
beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you next week. I'll be on for a little bit if people want to, as we call it in scouting, kick stones in the parking lot. So we'll leave the meeting open for a little bit longer.
Have a bell if you want to ring it.